What's up, men? Welcome to the Male Cartel podcast. Let's get started.
Do you think men are important? Like for what?
Men are not meant to be dominant. Men are meant to be submissive.
Life's too short to exercise. I'm just gonna be honest.
It's okay to be fat.
Dispelling toxic masculinity and really redefining what it means to be a man. Men can cry. So it's okay to be weak. It's okay to be weak.
I'm telling you right now, not everybody wants to see you win.
You seem to be more woman than you are man. You don't have any manly qualities.
You give them this message that it's okay to be a man.
It's not okay, it's necessary. How are we going to do without men? If you look around the city here, you see all these buildings go up. These men, they're doing impossible things.
It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Be a dangerous man. Being dangerous is not being a threat. They're two different things. You can't be a good man if you're not a dangerous man. You say one disrespectful thing to my wife, I am not only willing, but I'm able to inflict great bodily damage.
I'm going to do everything in my power to become a victor and not a victim. I can't explain it, but you better feel me. Winners win and losers lose. I can't explain it any better than that. I don't know how it happens, but winners win. And if you create a culture of losing, if you keep being a victim, if you keep letting losing happen to you, if you keep letting people do you and treat you any kind of way, it's going to become a culture. What's the matter with you? There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow. There is no tomorrow.
Here's your host, Nick and Shane.
Well, guys, welcome to episode 3 of the Male Cartel. Welcome to our audience. So excited to be back with you. I am here with my buddy Shane.
Let's go.
And with our first guest and our first official guest, Ryan Gill, or as is on my iPhone, Gregory Ryan Gill.
Gregory.
So
Nice.
are we doing upper scale Gregory, or are we going to go with...
We'll stick with Ryan.
Just Ryan.
Yeah. Gregory, that's business.
That's business right there. But it's on my iPhone, Gregory. I would be looking for Ryan, and there's Gregory.
And then you see Shane pop up, and you're like, oh, he just sounds knucklehead. Who do you hire, Gregory or Shane? Probably Gregory.
Well, yeah, I mean, Gregory. Well, Gregory.
There's quotations around Ryan. So it's,
quotations.
The problem is when I put like a nickname for someone, like my buddy Steve Jones, he's Batman because I'm Superman. And so, but then you forget that what name you put them under, and you can't find them.
That's right.
I had an old pastor friend. I won't say his name on here, but after a number of years, it was quite interesting trying to find him. So, but we'll stick with Ryan.
Ryan.
I like that. Or you do like I do and just forget to put a name with them all together. So you're searching your text messages for keywords that you knew you said in a text message.
Yeah. I do that all the time. All the time.
All the time.
Every guy does that, I'm sure.
What did we talk about? Oh, yeah. And hopefully you can remember that. Well, Shane, I'm going to start with you, just catch up. We're going to get with Ryan here in just a moment. We're not going to spend too much time catching up on our week and all that, but you had some interesting things happen just the other day. Was that on Labor Day?
No, it was actually Sunday.
Okay.
We're chilling at the house. I was going to go see my aunt, Donna. She had a stroke back in July, so I'm going to go see her, but I want to fish for a few hours. You know, I got a couple hours to spend, so might as well fish at the pond. So I was just checking my gear back in my truck. And my Sawyer, my youngest, he loves to practice fishing or whatever in the yard. I said, son, I done put a new lizard on your hook. That's a good hook. Lizard, don't be running across the gravel. It's going to keep messing it up. I might have to give you a new one, but we're not going to do that, okay? And so I had to get onto him for a little bit. Andrew was playing some kind of ninja thing with sticks. You know how boys are. They just create any activity with sticks. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing I know, Sawyer done hooked my Andrew in the wrist. And it went into the white meat, straight into the meat. So I saw it, and he was like, he didn't freak out. He was such just a big boy about it. And I came to him, and then my wife was outside, saw it. She's kind of freaking out a little bit. And then I knew it was like severe, and I said, hey, I need some scissors. I had to cut the line, and then I put them on the back tailgate of my truck, looked at my options. This happened twice to me before, but usually right in the skin, not in the meat. And so it went straight through, and I pushed on it a little bit, and it looked like it can poke through the other end of the And so I thought to myself, I'm going to try to pull it out a little bit, which was impossible. I usually don't lose bass with those types of hooks once you set it good. And then it was like probably the only option is to push it through. And the story continues. My wife is freaking out because I want to push it through. I'm like, son, snap out of it. He's crying. I'm like, because I'm trying to push it through his skin. It's like a harpoon. I said, son, look at me. Snap out of it. You trust me? And he was like, yes, sir. And I was like, this is going to be bad. We're going to push it through. Get my needle on those pliers. And I just had no filter at all. I was thinking about when I was in NAM, and how things were. And so super funny in the moment. Not really funny, but, I was like, oh, is this really happening to me? And we haven't eaten supper or anything. And lo and behold, my wife was like, we can't do this. And there's no way that we would have tore his like tendon or whatever ligaments in his hand. So we went to the doctors, and then they shot him up, and then it was deep in the meat when the doctor goes, I'm so glad I shot it up, got it numb because it hit that nerve. And then he is shaking his arm with the pliers, with the scapula, trying to push it through the skin.
The doctor was.
The doctor was, because it was thick through the muscle.
Oh.
And so finally got it through and then cut it and then pulled it out. And you would never know. By the next day, he was like, it's all cool. He was so cool, man. You know what we did after that? We don't go buy anything for the kids like this, but I had to take him to give him some Legos, man. I had to get a reward. He was so amazing. I had to reward him. And I'm not that dad that does that, but dude, I just felt he just had a harpoon in his hand. He was so cool. He was like, yes, sir, no, sir, asking questions to the doctors, just being absolutely outstanding. Nice. And I was like, you are a grown man. And we were already going to have him work for this Lego set that he really wanted. And because he spent all the money he had, which was $35, on my birthday, on me, on Dad.
Oh, that's sweet.
For the BB gun.
Oh, so he bought the BB gun.
He bought the BB gun. So, so I was like, I had to give him something. So I was going to give him anyway some money and just have him work it and pay him well, type of thing. And then we just didn't have opportunity because of the rain and the hurricane and everything else. So
I thought for sure you were going to tell me you got it out, went and got one of your 22 bullets, cut it open, took the gunpowder, sealed it shut.
Then took his clothes off and then put like a old tarp over him.
Went out into the woods. This is what we do. We
100%.
Survive.
We're gonna do that one day. That's what we're gonna do.
We didn't discuss like a flex your pecs segment for this one, but he's got to be the one this week for flex your pecs.
Yeah.
Because I saw the video. He's joking, taking your hat. Like he was chill.
He was chill. Everybody else, literally the nurses and the doctor first saw it. He goes, oh. He was like a little startled. I was like, he just like, oh. He was looking at it, and he was like, I'll be right back. And then the nurses were just like, everybody was in the room. Because it was definitely in the meat.
He did push it through, didn't he?
Yeah, he wound up pushing it through.
Okay.
He had to, and then
I saw it
he
on
had
the
to
other side.
cut it with the scapula and then pull it straight through because it was, like I said, it was in the muscle. And so that, that little muscle right here, you feel the muscle with the ligaments. And a good thing it didn't tear anything.
Yeah.
We just got lucked up. So, and Andrew was a beast. So,
well, Ryan and I and our producer Carell, that's how we're going to refer to him now. Producer Carell.
Producer
PC.
Carell.
Yeah, or we could do his first name. We'll hold off on that. That'll be a big episode. So producer Carell and Ryan and myself, we went to a men's conference since our last recording.
You spoke at it too, right?
I did a breakout. Yeah, on the Disciplined Man, and may share that when they're ready for that to be public. They shared it with us.
Okay.
I felt it went okay for the time that I had, but we had a good time. Carell came back and infected everybody with COVID, so we had to avoid that and deal with that. I'm good.
Did you have COVID too?
I didn't. I took a test and I was good. So thankfully he didn't infect me, but other people have gotten sick. So I just want to make it known. Thank you, producer Carell, for bringing that back. But I think we had a good time. Speaking of the men's conference and stuff, when I got home, I saw a post online, and this actually had me up last night because I was thinking about it. And so I woke up about, 1 a.m., couldn't get back to sleep. Well, I'm normally up to go to the gym. But Nikki was getting on to me for being kind of grouchy about something. I mean, she didn't say grouchy. Sometimes Nikki will say, I don't know, do y'all's wives ever do this? Ask you, why are you the way that you are? I think that's how she words it, which to me, like, you know, sometimes how people will talk and there's like, in your mind, there's theme music to go with it. And so she was like, to me, it comes across like, why are you the way that you are? Bound chicka wow wow, you know, like that kind of steam starts, you know, and y'all, we can't go down that road again. This is not a sex show. You know, we don't want the authorities, the podcast authorities, because we have to mark those boxes like, is this for children? Is this explicit? So this is, we're not going down that road. Although, you know, if y'all remember those commercials growing up, I don't know, maybe it was just me because I've always had insomnia.
Which one? The Marlboro commercials?
No.
Everybody
the 900 commercials.
Oh,
the
100.
1-900 commercials.
Yes, 100.
So I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would go and turn on TV and just start watching vampire, I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff that's on in the middle of the night. And then there would be these commercials. They wouldn't show anything, but it would be, you know, scantily dressed, you know, women. And then, of course, it's just to get your attention. It's like, call 1-900 with your credit card. And, you know, I think it was like an early test of, are you gay? Because I want, like at 5-6 years old, like you want to, but it's like two things. Number one, I don't know how to use the phone. Number two, I don't have a credit card. And so anyway, just want to let y'all know this is not a 900 commercial. You can support the podcast now. We've got that set up. So if people want to support that. But where was I? Oh, so Nikki was, I don't know how I went there. But anyway, Nikki was just talking about sometimes I can be kind of grouchy towards people. Somebody had posted something online. And I was like, okay, you know, that's kind of 10 years old. But then they did it again. And it was like, all right, that's kind of overplayed. Now you're just trying to be cute. And so, but I was thinking, I was like, is there a point as men that we go to bed at like, I don't know, maybe age 37, somewhere between like 37 and 42. And then you just wake up like Clint Eastwood. Like you just have this permanent scowl on your face. You just, right. You just want to sit on your porch and like yell at all the kids to get off your lawn.
Yes.
Like, is that just me?
100%. No, 100%.
Okay, so it's okay at some point to just become a grumpy old man?
Yes.
We've earned it.
You earned it, yes.
Ryan, how old are you, by the way?
So I'll be 37 Saturday.
See, have you had that? Have you just
Ryan's a baby.
Right, he's the youngin'.
He's like 10 years younger.
Have you just gone to bed and then one day you woke up and you were like Clint Eastwood?
I think it happened about 35 for me.
So maybe it's earlier than that.
It's early if you do painting.
Yeah. It's all the paint.
Because I've already we sat through and talked about stories while everybody else was doing everything else, and I'd probably have the scowl look about 30, bro, if I was you. So
it's just like your level for stupidity and dumb stuff just kind of bottoms out.
Yes.
Unless it's your dumb stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then it's okay.
Right. Because if people were completely tuned out of dumb stuff, they might not even listen to this podcast.
But all right, so do you ever do something dumb? Do you know yourself well enough to know that when you do something dumb, do you go, man, I'm an idiot? You ever do that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm an idiot. But there's a lot of people, they don't think they're an idiot. They actually think they are like brilliant. That's the difference.
They're probably not married.
Probably not married because your wife would tell you you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a loving, you know.
Mine would punch.
I know
he would Medea. He'd get hit with a frying pan.
Yeah,
I know. So producer Carell had a birthday. We shared that. He's now in that 55 range, so he probably already does this before coming into the office. But we've talked about that. Like looking forward to the day that we can just go hang out at Hardee's. You know, get us a biscuit,
drink coffee,
get the senior discount.
Too bad they don't have the ashtrays in there anymore, right? So like he could be the old man, sitting there like puffing a pack of cigarettes while he's getting his coffee.
Solve all the problems of the world. Talk politics, religion.
No more world hunger.
What our wives are fussing at us about. Oh man, I can't wait till that day. Producer Carell, what's that like? He doesn't have a microphone, but we'll let you know.
Sign language, yeah.
So we're excited to have Ryan, not Gregory, but Ryan. Ryan is the owner of Brush Strokes.
Yep, stroke
and
it up.
So we're excited to have you with us today. We're going to talk about a specific topic. I want to kind of hear from Shane and Ryan later And so, but first, I know Shane's got some questions. I've got some questions. I think if you want to just briefly kind of start off, you were just on a great podcast with Men After God. Great interview, great, points, and other people can go check that out if they want. We're, of course, going to have you share a little bit about who you are, your story, but also I want us to tackle, talking about like developing young men and
Definitely.
young leaders. I think both of you guys do it excellent. So before we get there, take it away. Share a little bit about yourself, your family.
Yeah, so let me lead with my wife doesn't hit me because she will listen to this. So no, but I don't want. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. I'll just say I'm married. Married. Our anniversary is December 4th. I think and thank goodness she forgets our anniversary too. So going on 14 or 15 years this December. We've got 5 wonderful kids. We've got one at UGA, so go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
She's in her
How
senior
those Florida
year.
Gators doing?
I'm not saying anything. I'll plead the fifth.
There you go. So, got one in college. We've got a 12-year-old son, 8-year-old son, 5-year-old son, and a 4-year-old little girl. Wonderful, wonderful kids, wonderful family. We've worked really hard to get to where we are. And we keep working at it. So, blessed to just be a husband and a father and entrepreneur and fellow Christ follower and just whatever else we can do. So.
Well, I know you shared a little bit about your story, but I do think it is pivotal as far as maybe in that nutshell. But once again, I saw a comment online, and I've gotten them before, aggravates the fire out of me when people say things like, it must be nice for this, that, or the other. They say that with fitness. They say that with planting a church. I had people say it when we merged with, the church where we are now, must be nice for this and that, not understanding the long nights.
It's in your DNA.
Right.
Like,
it's just genetics. My genetics, yes.
It's
called gymnetics.
Yeah. No, so like brief history. I grew up, just the abridged version, right? So I grew up an only child. My father was a self-employed contractor. My mother was a diabetic, and they both suffered from addiction. They wasn't involved in the church. I was in and out of church, different things. Had a hard life, got into the streets at a young age, was doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. My mom passed in 2005, and I just kind of lost my mind a little bit and went to work in oil refineries. Was blessed to travel all over the place working in oil refineries, but wound up homeless and sleeping on a park bench, and then went into telecommunications, spent 8 to 10 years in telecommunications working for companies like Wow Cable. Y'all don't hold that against me. Good people, but internet is internet, so we know how that goes. But just traveling a lot with them, developed some alcohol problems, had some relational issues with my wife from the alcohol and from traveling all the time, and we just decided that enough was enough, and our marriage and our way of life was more important than any paycheck. And so we started Brushstrokes. We hustled Brushstrokes in the evenings and on the weekends. I was still working 50, 60 hours a week in corporate America. At the time, I was going to school at University of Phoenix twice a week. I'm not an online dude. Like, I can't sit in front of the computer and make myself take courses. So, like, I was physically going on campus to take classes. Fast forward that 2 years, and I turned in my notice to WOW, and right before I turned in my notice, they had offered me the position that I had been striving for, but I was going to have to pack my family up and move them 9 hours south to Tampa, Florida area. Through a lot of prayer, a lot of conversation with me and Tamara, we just decided let's go paint. And so we stepped out on faith, and it was Friday, May the 13th, 2016, was my last day in corporate America. And so everybody thought I was crazy at being Friday the 13th to leave in corporate America. But it's it's been it's been a lot of ups and downs since, but we have been blessed that, now my wife and I have a 7-figure business, and we're putting business plans and other stuff in place to keep investing in people and trying to grow this thing to where God wants us to grow it to. So,
boom. Well, I love that. And I know your story, so the listeners are hearing it for the first time. And one thing, if you're listening, what I love about Ryan is Ryan, he is who he says he is. He's very transparent, very real, very honest, and very meek. And I mean, when I mean by meekness, I mean like you're humble, you're teachable, you want to learn, you're always learning. And we've eaten Panda Express a few times.
Yep.
And sit and talking. And so I've always loved that about you. We have similar backgrounds as far as like not having money and going through being poor and all those other things, and having to like grind and hustle and make things happen for yourself, because if you don't do it, ain't nothing happening.
Exactly.
And so you ain't eating. And so I admire that. So I always felt like from jump we always was kindred spirits in that. And so you get me and I get you. But before we get anything serious, I do have a few questions that I love to ask. First one is this, because we did this last episode and we just had a big conversation. It brought up a comment, and I agree. A gorilla is a manly animal.
Silverback, yeah.
We
missed it.
I I was going to say silverback gorilla, not a yellowback, but a gorilla, but a silverback, but because it's a beast, right? But we only had 5 to choose from, right? So if you're listening, we only had 5 to choose from.
And it's kind of like the spotlights on a stage. If you've ever spoken in front of people,
yeah,
you get in front of this microphone.
Yeah,
we're not scripted. We may talk about the topics, but then you get in front of this thing and like
it goes blank.
It's gone.
Yeah, you can't even.
We're not
remember
that
something.
smart.
We're not. We're just. It's all by God's grace. But here's the question: favorite animal and favorite dude animal, like a male-looking animal, and why?
All right, so male animal, I got to say the eagle.
Eagle, because it looks like a male, right?
Yeah,
so why?
Because it flies above, right? It looks down, and it doesn't look down in a bad way, but it's always observing, right? It's watching its surroundings, and it's just that sign of freedom and peace, right? Like go America, exactly, America, baby.
USA.
I like that.
Yeah. And it'll steal your poodle.
Yep,
it'll
steal the little feminine little poodle.
In cats.
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Let's go Eagles.
Let's go Eagles. Unless they play, the Falcons or the Bears. All right, which are both male animals. Right. Here's the second question I have: favorite sitcom or TV show dad, and why? Who do you think is like the greatest dad in like sitcom? I already have my dad. He's really a poor. He's a good dad, but he wouldn't be a really good role model. But I want to hear yours.
Sitcom dad, huh? Oh, dude. Man, I'm horrible at remembering people's names on TV shows. Like, there's those dudes that can quote movie lines. Like, I'm not that dude.
I'm not either.
So you got like Homer Simpson. Okay, let's go.
So I grew up on The Simpsons, right?
Okay.
And I want a Bart Simpson my kids half the time.
Oh, that's funny.
But no, I mean,
Tim. I think you're like a Tim. Was it
Tim Allen?
Tim Allen.
Tim
Y'all
the
are
Toolman
way too
Taylor.
early. Y'all are way too early.
I already have mine though.
Who's yours?
Mine is Fred G. Sanford or the Jeffersons. Not
Yes.
Jeffersons.
Dynamite.
Dynamite. Yeah.
Daddy Jefferson.
Is it Jeff?
It's
no, that's
gotta
not
be
Jeff-
him.
No, that's Good Times.
Good Times?
Yeah. It
But
was the dad.
But it's Jefferson. It was his last name
George
was
Jefferson was like
no
he was
George
on
Jefferson.
that-
Yeah.
yeah. But it was dad. I'm trying to think his name, but it's.
I gotta look it up.
Look it up. But they had a daughter, Thelma. I was like crazy about, and so but
JJ was my man.
JJ was the man, and then but Thelma was she was my first crush. Thelma was, but the dad would tear that behind up, and so he was very authoritative. He was kind of scary, and then but the fun dad, like the senile, the going crazy dad was definitely Fred G. Sanford. He'd keep me in stitches. But that's mine. Super old school. You got it yet for us, Nick?
I mean, y'all already pointed out I'm 10 years. I'm a little bit younger than y'all. So
it'd be like.
So I did. I had like Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Yeah.
I had. We definitely had like The Simpsons and Family Guy. Peter or whatever. But none. I don't know, man. I gotta take it back.
What about a movie? Is there a dad, like a male figure in a movie that you like?
You know,
I can tell you when I think of you, who I think of.
Y'all gonna get me on this one, but I watched a lot of westerns and stuff, right?
Okay,
my parents were big western.
Yeah.
Tombstone, Little House. I know Little House on the Prairie is not a western, but that era TV show.
Yeah.
And so, like, I just think about like the dad on the Little House on the Prairie. Yeah,
Michael Landon.
Yeah, like he was. He never really lost his cool. And so, like,
how about Andy Griffin?
Andy Griffin was.
Andy
Griffin was.
That's a good one. It was James Evans.
Daddy Evans. Yep.
Daddy Evans.
James.
But all of those, I mean, Jefferson, Evans, all those guys were those were the dads to grow up with.
And then you get into the early 90s, and that's when they started changing, making dads being buffoons.
Not, and it was for some, but you still had some, like with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, yeah.
He was a strong dad.
He was.
That's right.
Even though he was an uncle.
He pulled out that pool stick that time when he got hustled on the pool.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, one of the most powerful scenes is where they say that Will Smith just went straight from the hip with his dad, and he was just kind of letting it all out, venting to his uncle, but the uncle was really
Uncle
the dad
Phil.
figure. Yeah, Uncle Phil. So yeah, I think there were still some strong dads, but you still had. I mean, you have of course people like Archie Bunker, those type still,
comic relief,
right?
Yeah.
So, but it's not like that anymore, for sure.
Yeah, it's.
Then you got like that '70s show dad, like he was.
He was pretty strong. Yeah.
He was.
All right, last question. Your goat of superheroes. Who's your superhero goat?
Go-to superhero.
Like,
oh man, I mean it's kind of that Batman, Superman, DC era go-to.
DC more than Marvel?
Yeah, probably so. Marvel just I mean, I like me some Iron Man. I like what's the
Strange?
Doctor Strange. Yeah, I like me some Doctor Strange. But no, I'd probably have to say Batman. Overall. So
Batman. What do you think about that, Nicholas?
It's Superman.
Yeah.
Superman.
But
That's
my buddy
Superman.
Steve Jones, loves Batman too. I don't know. At least it's DC.
Yeah.
And not Marvel. I mean, I like Marvel.
I'm a Marvel guy. I like DC too. I'm trying to think DC.
I like them both.
I love Superman. I like Batman.
Wolverine.
Wolverine. The Hulk. That Hulk's always been my favorite.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, they're all. I mean, they're all good. But my
awesome.
top's always been Superman. I mean, you
Superman,
just can't beat Superman.
Yep. I'm just disappointed in DC's route with the whole Superman.
Crazy.
Henry.
Cavill.
Yeah. He was perfect Superman. He was handsome and strong and muscular, and
they changed him up.
They did away with him. Yeah.
Yep.
Really.
Yep.
And they with the new guy Ezra or whatever with the Flash, he had all that controversy of like grooming a 12-year-old girl and all this, and instead of cutting him, they kept him. So the newest Flash I've not seen because I didn't want to support it's like. All this controversy that we have with grooming and especially when you don't want to talk about toxic masculinity and all of that junk.
Like that's the definition of
right, and yet you've got someone who has been found essentially guilty of grooming a child. You'll keep that person and continue to market them, but a man who stands up for his family and let's just say a dad stood up to him. In protecting his 12-year-old daughter, that would be toxic masculinity. I just can't. I hate what Hollywood is doing and really what they're kind of pushing. And so I hated it because I loved Michael Keaton's Batman. That original kind of, they finally put it on. It wasn't cartoon, and then he's in it, but I've not seen it. I just can't pull myself to it.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't watch a whole lot of TV. If we do, we're period pieces and then, like the Nickelodeon, the cartoon Avatar. Like that's money.
Is it? I haven't seen it yet.
Dude, it's money. We watch it. We probably watched it 20, 30 times.
Hey.
So, but it's a long TV series and it works out. Good, for the most part, good values. They don't bring in there's not a rhetoric that's being forced down your throat, and
And and then the kids can run around and karate each other and earth and fire and water bend, right?
Catch each other with fishing hooks.
Yeah, man, that's it, dude. A serious question I had. We ask this question oftentimes with people, but I'm going to say the question and I'm going to say something in response to it. If you could go back into time and talk to the high school Ryan, what would you say? And I think that, to make it simplified even more, what advice would you give to a young person? There's advice. If you had to give like 140 character advice, like a tweet, advice to the high school Ryan, drop back and slide a little note to him to say, hey, here you go. Or just a young person in general, what would you give to a high school person? 140 characters.
Ooh. Probably listen more than you speak.
Yeah, that's a good word. Yeah, that's James chapter 1.
Probably listen more than you speak.
Man, that's powerful. I think that's a good thing for young people, and I think that's a really good thing for us older men as well, especially when it comes to our wives or our kids. Sometimes our kids are saying stuff without even speaking. We're just not paying attention, by the way they're acting. You got something?
Yeah, well, and I was just going to back into the business side of things, because I know even on your last interview, you were talking about kind of intentionality, and we can get into that in just a second. But I was curious because we're multifaceted people, and so it's not just like one singular stream of this is our life. It's not categories. So we're talking about, Male Cartel, talking about men issues, but you're a father, you're a husband, but you're also a business owner. What is it that you have learned that is transferable from being a business owner, being a father, being a dad, which those are the typical male things? Women can be business owners. However, there's transferable principles as a business owner that you could go, hey, I've really learned this. It's made me a better man because of what I've experienced in business.
Yeah.
Are there any principles, any things that you've learned in that
definitely. One of those things, actually, Shane was giving me a bunch of praise, but something that I've never told him was I love his family mantra. I love the fact that he can look at, and I don't remember it exactly, but I know that he can look at his kids and say, okay, Paget's do this. And it made me think, and so something that carries across is kind of what I call our Gill family mantra now is, if you know better, you should do better.
Oh yeah,
I've heard you say that.
And so and so that's how I teach my kids, but I also my employees, and even with youth, and me and my wife she'll hit me with it, right? Like, so it's multifaceted. With if you know better, you should do better. And I think just in a nutshell, like that's one of those things that if you should have paid that person a little more of attention, then the next time they're talking, give them that attention.
Yep.
If you should have, taken a few more minutes on this project, or you knew you should have, whatever it is, right? Then do it next time, because a mistake made more than once is a conscious decision.
Yeah.
And so that just kind of compounds and carries across, right?
That's worth the whole podcast right there. If you're listening, that's just taking that, I think will take you very far in life. I always tell players, sports, and I do my family, I do the same thing. Working with young people, I say the same thing, kind of exactly what you said. I always say, well, now you know, so now you're responsible with what you know. And so you have to, because you know now, you're now responsible to what you know. And so there's no excuse. So what are you going to do? You're going to be responsible, or you're not going to be responsible?
I mean, you hit it with the "I got you." Right?
I can't stand that. When somebody says "I got you," that means it translates "I don't got you."
Yeah, exactly. They're going
they go up and down.
Yep.
Just own up. My bad. I am so sorry. It won't happen again. That's it.
Or like people say, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It's like, well, are you typically not honest?
No, I want you to lie to me.
Right. Yeah. No. It's just like to have to say that. Or if I'm telling you the truth or whatever, it's like, why do you have to preference what you're saying with if I were to be honest or something like that? Then I go, have you not been being honest?
Yeah, have
because
you
if you
lied?
have to now preference this statement, but I say, so I know with your family that, but I think in your business that has been also kind of played out. I think y'all have shortened it to now brush strokes, but it used to be brush strokes quality painting. Y'all have not done away with the quality by any means, but you hold your team and you hold your contractors to a high standard as well, because essentially contractors are representing you. What about that when it comes to manhood? Like holding ourselves to a higher accountability, to a higher standard, to high quality. Like, you know, does that kind of play into just the guys listening? Like, what could you speak to them about? Kind of holding yourself to a high standard of quality.
Y'all coming at it today. Okay. Let me say it so in contracting, especially in today's world, you've got 1,000 truck in the trucks, you got 1,000 people that say they can do it, right? And same thing in manhood. You've got tons of men who just run lip service, who, you know, post scripture online, but then behind closed doors live in sin, right? Your people that make these comments of what all they do, but then their actions don't follow. And so I think my thing is, you want to 90% of being a man is if your mouth says it, make your bottom do it. Put your legs in motion behind it. Put action to it, right? Like you can't. Brian Edwards talked about this in the retreat, and a legacy worth living requires action. Words only show who we want to be. Actions show who we really are, right? So if you say you can do it, or you say you're going to do it, just do it. And that's what brings the quality behind brushstrokes. And that's why we dropped quality, so we went through a rebrand, and that's why we took the quality painting off, because that's a given. I mean, we had a project where one of our crews came in and did some stuff, and it was kind of, would it pass? Yeah, to most people, they look at it and it looks great. But to me, I'm not going to accept it. So we came back in and redid everything, redid the whole entire piece of it.
Was that the one that I remember? There was one picture. It was like you had to go back. Maybe you're in Statesboro or some other place. I can't remember exactly.
Now, so this one was actually just recent. Now there was one down in South Georgia like that, but
I just remember something on social media years ago that I saw, and I was like, man, it just wasn't up to quality, and so you went back and redid everything.
And we're not opposed to calling it out either, right? Like I'll post it online. Our foyer here at the church. Guy came in and did the work. Good dude, great friend, but it didn't. At the end of the day, it didn't land where I wanted it to land. So last week, I had an entire crew completely strip the foyer in the church here, and all on our dime, on my call, straight cost to me of let's do it and do it right.
Yeah.
If we say quality is in the name, then by gosh, our actions are going to have quality behind them. And it's going to be your interaction, right? So like when you talk to our teammates, when you talk to, from myself all the way down to our newest apprentice, there's just a level of expectation. And if we say it, then we're going to do it. And that's how we got to live.
Well, and I like that because I think you and I've spoke before, and people have talked before, where it's like, if you have to say you're the alpha, you're not the alpha. So, like if you have to say I'm the leader, you're not the leader. And so I like the fact that you don't have to put quality in your name because you're building a business in such a way that it's known. It's expected, but also your clients, your customers, they know when I hire brushstrokes, I'm going to get quality. Exactly. So you almost don't have to say, almost like if I'm being honest, you don't have to say quality in the name and I think when we're talking about men, like you nailed it. And I started listening to Brian's breakout, and I haven't gotten through it because they sent us the links and just because of time. But I got to the part where he was talking about something about we like to say we're Samson. We want to be the tough, mean man, but we end up, that's what we say. But then when we go into action, we're the ones laying our heads in Delilah's lap, being taken advantage of and giving ourselves over, weakening ourselves. We say one thing, but then we're doing the other. And so I love that kind of illustration and that example for sure. So do you have any?
Nah, man, that's good. I'm just marinating.
Yeah.
Like a old ribeye.
Ribeyes good.
Ribeyes are good.
We have not gotten to Australia yet, by the way.
But once you get to Australia,
I'm going to start marketing the show just Australia, so we can get one listener from Australia. So
yeah, I've got one. I got one in my break in my, I guess business development. I'm gonna send him the link. We're gonna get him. We're gonna get an Australian signed up.
We have got to get our Australian celebration. It's way too long. It's 2 episodes now.
Yep.
like it's been 100 episodes. Speaking of which, man, it's been so great once again for those listening, those who are liking, sharing, leaving us feedback, texting us. I mean, we've gotten so much feedback. Looking at the numbers, far above 3 episodes in. Well, now this is our 3rd episode, official episode, where I would have ever imagined us being as a brand new podcast. So I'm excited about that. One of the things I want to talk to y'all about specifically, and this will kind of round us out with our topic. I'd love to have Ryan back because he's local. He's part of the cartel. He's listened to every episode and been a part of it. But I want to say this to you two guys, as a pastor, as a dad, just as a fellow man. One of the 2 things that you guys do so well. One of the first things when I met you, Shane, was just the young guys that you had developed. And I think it's so important that talking about, Brian's talk where he talks about legacy requires living, leaving a legacy behind us. And I think when we're talking about the culture of where we're at as men, we really have to be honing in on developing young men and bringing them up, calling them to a higher standard. And you 2 guys do this excellent. In fact, from my own household has benefited from it. And so I want us to talk about that in just a moment, but I do want to point out the fact and also express my gratitude to you guys, but also hear from you, because there are a lot of people, a lot of guys who want the title of teacher. They want the title of leader. They want the title of coach. They want the title of, whatever, pastor, mentor, you name it. And they want the title. But you got to get down in the trenches and get your hands dirty, not sit behind a desk and not waste your life away with a title, but actually out there investing in the young people. Producer Carell has as well. My kids love them. But even my nephew who doesn't have a great involvement with his father, not a great, male role model, not somebody who's invested in him a lot. There were days couple summers ago where you're coming and picking him up and Tristan up, taking them to play basketball, taking them to get chicken wings. And I'm talking to Shane for those who are on audio, investing in them. Yeah. My own son works for Ryan, and seeing him from a 17-year-old in high school going from probably just sweeping floors to now leading teams, that doesn't just happen without some kind of development. Yep. And then on top of that, the other young people who have been developed and have grown. And when Ryan had to step out of student ministry for his sake of his own family, and he shared that in his previous interview on the Men After God, but recognizing, hey, I need to focus on my own family and home so it's strong, but understanding that the relationships there, it hurt a lot of students. And I've seen a lot of people carry titles who, when they step out of the situation, and I never want to be this person, where it's like people don't bat an eye because there was no relationship and there was no investment there. But to see the heartbreak in young people because the relationship that was there. And I want to point out one thing, and you can kind of talk to this, Ryan. Mitchell, young guy, didn't have a lot of direction. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but once again, he was a team lead. Came out of our student ministry, didn't have a lot of investment, didn't have a lot of strong, direction and all of that. Did I understand it correctly? You would not let him start work for the day without giving you some kind of plan for his future during the summer? You can speak to that, but
yeah. So I call it we call it a GSR, or a goal set review, right? And it's like we try to set those daily as much as we can. But like with Mitchell, it was, well, what's the plan? How does your actions today affect you next week? And I'll tell you, like, I can't rave about Mitchell enough. Like, he's in Germany now with his wife, and he's worked his way into management. And it's because, again, I mean, he had direction, and he had, and I mean, Gavin, for instance, with your, something. So Gavin is 20 years old. He has 3 years painting experience, right? And so far this year in 2023, he has directly overseen over $300,000 worth of work, brought in under budget and early every time, with desire, with above expectations, right? And I would like to say that, that I have something to do with that, but I'll kind of circle. I'm kind of talking in circles, but I don't want that title as teacher, as mentor, as coach. I just want to pour into these kids. I want to be able to take a young man and hopefully keep him from going down a path or making a mistake that I did. And I think that's the difference maker. And I don't know. And Shane may or may not agree with me, but I think the ones that strive for that title, you're right, they're not making that difference because they're caring about them, right? And it's not, I don't care about me. I care about how do I impact this young man to 5 years from now be better than when I met him. If I'm leaving this individual and they're in the same place 5 years from now, then I've failed in pouring into them, right? And so that was it with Mitchell. I would always ask, and I ask Gavin all the time, well, what's the plan? What are you going to do? As a matter of fact, it's about time for us to sit down and have a formal conversation as well, because I spend a lot of time with Evans High School in the shop class over here with Mr. McCullough, and I tell those students in that class, I said, look, it's not about painting. I don't care if you paint or not. You come give us 5 years, and in 5 years, we're going to teach you how to be an entrepreneur. We're going to teach you how to budget your money. We're going to teach you how to, the benefit is you learn a trade. The benefit is you learn how to paint. The benefit is you can go anywhere in the United States, or the world for that matter, and provide for yourself and a future family. But we want to teach you how to be better tomorrow than you were today. And I think that's that difference maker, right? Like, that's the difference between that title and that person that's actually doing it.
Yeah, I think that when somebody seeks in any aspect in life, if you're just chasing a title, whether it could be chasing a title of being a husband or a dad, and some guys just want that title, but you're not dad.
Yeah.
You just gave something to a female to produce a child. That's not, it's more than that.
Yeah, you're a donor.
Yeah, you're a donor. And so I think that if you're chasing, I think whatever you chase, you're going to wind up getting. So I think when it comes to what I'm hearing you saying, I think we're on the same track. I believe that when you're pouring into this generation, you come in with a mindset, and this is how I'm just letting you know, like peeling back the layers, like how I've thought for 23 years. I think that I'm just a little bump along the road, and I'm going to try to steer this young person, onto the right road. It's kind of like the train tracks where the operator, somebody hits that one lever and it changes the tracks to a different direction at the nick of time before it crashes. It's kind of like that for a lot of kids. And so for some kids, you can see them immediately, the potential, they're smart, all this, they have so much untapped. So you feel like, okay, well, you make an observation on the kid, and then you're like pouring everything you can into the kid, knowing full well this kid's going to fly. And then 20 years from now, when they are, a parent and they're raising teenagers type of thing or whatever, that you're thinking that you're just a figment of their imagination more than likely, especially like, if you think of it from us, it's like a ministry angle. they're going to graduate and be gone. And I'll become some kind of like, oh yeah, that youth guy,
What was his name?
Yeah. And I literally want to be that guy. Honestly, I have a hard time remembering people's names. And I can think back on tons of people that really impacted my life. And some people, I do know their names, but some, it was just a period in life for 9 months that they were a part of my life. And I can't remember their name exactly, but I think I know their name, but I never knew their first name type of thing. And I go, man, they just had such a profound impact in my life. And so in knowing when you get someone, it's, you're teaching them, a scripture says, train up a child, we want them to be better in society. And we can't change their heart. Only God can do that.
Right.
But we can give them some skills and hopefully, change their perspective, if we're lucky. But I do think it's the mindset though is really knowing that, hey, for whatever such a time that I have here, I'm going to try to make a big difference. And that's the aim, knowing you'll be forgotten about more than likely. And so that's always been me to know that. But the Lord has blessed, obviously. I'm sure you, as people that you just mentioned, and like I know for me, people that I'm still really, really close to this day, that somehow but for every 10, there's another 90. I promise you, there's another 90 in my life that I don't even talk to. Like literally, I'll get a random, which is God bless it, with a random text message or something on Facebook that they'll just encourage me, and I'm like, what? And then you're like, I hadn't talked to that person in 10 years. Is this still Shane? And you're like, yeah. And they say something, you're like, and it's usually when I'm in the low, And you're like, you're just not seeing a lot of fruit, those days, but you just get up and want to make a difference. And so I feel exactly what you're saying, because I think that's the ticket, is trying to make a difference. Yeah,
we know that leadership is not by title, it's by influence. You then are given titles. Oftentimes we earn those titles before we even have them. And so I know both of your hearts, you care less about the title. You're going to do what you're going to do. You're going to do what you're passionate about. But I think also the thing that stands out, some will remember you, some won't. But it's also usually the ones that aren't all well put together.
Yeah.
They're the ones that you have to, the diamond in the rough, or the ones that other people have abandoned. I think a lot of that, all of us grew up not wealthy.
Yeah.
We've got those stories, but I think maybe that's where you see that in some of the young men that you've invested in, because a lot of these guys, even Alan Michael, to see where he's at, he worked for you.
Yep.
He's one of our regular listeners, and to see where he's at now in the military, killing it. Not to say that, but like Shane was saying, might have just been a little bump in the road that helped steer him in the right direction.
Me and Alan had we had a whole falling out, right? If I'm being honest, and I didn't even realize that I had done something that upset him, but we circled back around, and we were able. Craig Rochelle says it, right? Like me and you were talking about this on the way in. People don't want to follow leaders that are always right. They want to follow leaders that are real. And that's just kids these days, not even kids, young men want people that are just going to be real, because they live in such a filtered world. They live, we got to think about this. Our kids have never not known an iPhone. They've never not known instant gratification. And so what does that mean? That means they want realness. Like I think if you really dive down deep and cut through all the noise, they want real. And me and Alan, and Alan Michael's real. We're all real people, and we want real. We all want to feel worthy. We all want to feel that we feel loved. And at the end of the day, we want to feel like we're making a difference, or at least most people that I talk to in some way, right? And so I think that's, for me, I think that's the key, is just be real. Don't ask me a question you don't want the real answer to, because I'm going to give you the real answer, right?
Yep.
Don't come up to me and, hey, Mr. Ryan, what about this or what about that, and not want that conversation. Like I was having that conversation with my oldest on getting out of the truck to come in here. She's going through, I'm not going to put her business out there on the podcast, but she's going through some stuff. And I'm like, and at the end of it, she's laughing. Like, I don't always want to hear what you have to say, but I always need what you have to say, basically. Right. Yeah. And that's what it is, I think.
Yeah. And it's a whole nother subject about people who you can't be honest with, but at the end of the day, to shoot straight with people, to be honest, and to even, if you've got a falling out, to be able to come back around, to be honest about that, to tell that person, not everybody else, and try to get people to build up your sides against someone. That's being a man. That's the things that we as men need to do. But too often, we buy into the culture of victimization and all this stuff, and then we want to, run off into a corner and cry about everything. And that's just not manhood. That's just not being a man. That's being a little child. And we need to be better than that. And so I appreciate you definitely sharing that, and really owning up even, hey, we had a little bit of a falling out, but we've kind of taken care of it and we've been honest about it. I think that's awesome.
Just even that says a lot about your character. Hey, we had a falling out, but hey, we restored it. And it's like, we patched it all up, or we've come to an agreement. That's just communication.
Right.
That's just what grown people do. That's what a man does. I mean, a leader. I mean, that's what we're called to do as husbands. Even with you get in a disagreement with your wife or whatever. I mean, you're to make it right, to kind of come to a conclusion. You know what I mean?
Right.
That, not just like be passive. The world's full of passive men right now, and that's a big thing, like in our culture today, and just men not being a leader.
Well, I think that's what they want too.
Yeah.
They want us to be passive. They don't want us to be strong, and they don't want us to be direct. They want us to be weak. And and that's one of the things I appreciate and why I wanted to express gratitude and kind of tackle this subject, because I do appreciate the fact that my kids have a relationship with you all. I'd say with you three, in total, even though producer Carell doesn't have a microphone. But knowing the fact that if there was an issue that my sons or even my daughter didn't feel comfortable coming to me about immediately, I know they feel comfortable coming to you guys, and they're going to get honesty and they're going to get truth. And I need that. It's not like any of us are on pedestals.
Yeah.
I need friends who are willing to be honest. Once again, not talk behind my back to everybody else about my problem, but be man enough to come and say, hey, I got a problem with this, or what about this? Why we don't ask each other questions anymore. Like, hey, Shane, what about this? What's up with this, Ryan? And to get truth and to get clarity out of the horse's mouth versus, hey, I can't believe I can't believe Ryan did this. I wonder what he's thinking. Or
that's gossip, bro.
Right. It's slander.
Not
and
in the room. The subject's not in the room. That's gossip.
And and it shows that you are spineless.
Yeah.
You are spineless if you can't talk to someone to their face, but you talk about them behind their back.
Yeah. Well, it's scripturally too, though, right? Especially if both people are calling themselves or Christians, I mean, the Bible tells us bring it face to face and work out the difference. I can't quote the scripture directly, but it's right there in black and white, and it says, "Hey, come be a man up with love, grace, and humility." Right? Like, talk about it.
Well, all through Proverbs, gossip. It's all through there. All about slander. All about gossip. And yes, it says if you got aught with a brother, take it to him one on one. If he won't hear you, then bring others. So, as we get ready to wrap up, I do want to ask a couple questions.
Okay.
And then we'll kind of wrap up. One, how is Tristan's butt? Is he keeping it clean?
He is.
That's kind of the saga of our podcast now.
I have to. I had to tell him last night. Like he's been on his scooter, right? Like, and I posted something on Facebook about this. But so they're homeschooled, and so he's just, since we came back from that men's conference, he's just kind of been on fire. And so, like yesterday, he goes up to the top of the neighborhood and holds his little sign up: "Jesus loves you. Do you love him?" But he comes in and he smells like middle school boy that is, a wet, soggy rag. And it's like, boy, go get clean. Go get clean. Go take a shower. No, you stink. Go get clean. So yes, he's cleaning his butt.
Well, and that was the other question, was about the sign. What tell us a little bit about what Tristan's been doing, because I think it shows boldness. We talk about men having courage and boldness. Here's a young man, 12 years old, who is showing boldness
on this thing. Dude,
that's our goal.
Words just, it's amazing. Like, he's 12, he's up there. So for those of y'all that's listening, that's in Columbia County, most afternoons he's at the corner of Chamberlain Ridge, so we live in Chamberlain Ridge, right across from Columbia Middle, and so we've got the middle school and the high school that walk getting out of school, and so he's like, Dad, I want to go ahead, go up there. And he's like, well, I'm just asking people, I'm just asking people about Jesus, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. And the other day he was like, well, I did it. I started out doing it to make y'all proud, but now, like, I love hearing this stuff. And like the first day he did it, he was so upset that he only reached one kid, that he only had one person that he reached about Jesus. And he's like, and then he's like, last night we're doing our prayers, and he's praying for this kid that he met, whose mom won't let him have the Bible app on his phone, or doesn't have a Bible. But I'm like, that, right? Like, that's what it's about. And it's just, I don't know, man. It does get deep, because I can't say that I had the cojones at 12 years old to be up there on the street with a sign that says, "Do you love Jesus?" I struggle with that as an adult, as a almost 37-year-old man sometimes, and asking and sharing and going out and making other disciples and stuff, right? And so just to see him willing to go out there and have adults, I hate Jesus. Jesus hates me, right? Like, that's one of the comments he came back to me with. But to stand up there day after day, or as much as he is doing this, like, what else? Like, that's, if God called me home today, that's one of those things, right? It's not that we want a platform to stand on, but like, I didn't do that. He didn't get that from me. Not that I know of. Maybe I don't see that, but it's like, where did we go so right to have a kid that has a heart like that? And it's not just him. Like, my 8-year-old is my prayer. Like, I'll come in from work and he'll look at me and like, oh, you had a hard day, and put his hand on me and start praying. And it's like, I don't know that I can't, I try to look, and I can't say I set that example. I'm a butthole when I come in from work after hard days, but he's willing to pray for me. That's just that humility that it brings. It's humbling.
Yeah, some things are taught and some things are just caught. And putting your kids in a place, an environment, and in situations, and oftentimes, and then God's sovereign, and he's going to do all the work in that regard, to woo the heart of a man. And then sometimes you just put them in the best positions possible, and something happens, man. Those seeds are planted, and then it begins to grow, and then you're sitting, I mean, it's awesome that happens to a kid, but I believe that God, God spins things around in such a way that there's always beneficiaries of one movement, and I think that is for the parent to look back with like humbleness and be able to look back, and I do think that like that is probably creating like an infection in a positive way for how you see, even in your business now, how you're seeing this thing happen, and you're like, whoa, I'm just so grateful, and then you're like, that's now like part of a filter in which you see things, I'm sure. Yeah, that's super cool, man.
I think it all started from a clean butt.
There we go. Yeah, see, the Male Cartel, we're changing lives. Hey, I think if we were to have a second, nominee for Flex Your Pecs, that's it. Because I mean, we encourage, people live out their faith as pastors, and then to see it in young people. And I do believe it's a culmination of your own influence, but also those that you're surrounding them with. And that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, because you have had such a pivotal role in my own children's life. So I know you're having that same impact in your own children's life, but also you're surrounding them with people through church and school that are also investing in them. And I know my parents did a great job, but also those people that we were at church with that invested in us also played a huge role in my own personal life. And so I think it all works together. Well, as we close out real briefly, this is something that Shane and I said we were going to ask all of our guests to close out our podcast. If you were to describe what it means to be a man in a nutshell, what would you say?
Be a man in a nutshell. Do hard things. I think we heard, just do hard things. Mm-hmm. Men do hard things. Just do it.
I like it.
I love it.
Well, here soon, we're going to have some sponsors to our podcast that we're going to give some shout outs to. Things are growing. Things are progressing. We're excited about it. But other than that, thank you for tuning in to episode 3. My name is Nick, and I'm going to encourage you, as always, to get 1% better.
Get better, be better, do better. We're out. Thanks, Ryan, for being on the show.
Thank y'all.
Flexter Pex, Tristan. This was a good episode.
Absolutely.
Subscribe, share if you're encouraged. Know somebody being encouraged by the podcast. Please share, and that's it.
See you on 2 weeks with Coach Jay Mills. We're excited to have him on episode 4. See y'all.
See you.
Thank you for joining the Male Cartel podcast. Be sure to subscribe and share to help other men join the cartel. You can also keep up with us on social media and at malecartel.com.